Rich girl's shocking challenge to Maid reveals a hidden strength that will inspire millions. Emily Hartwell stood in the sprawling garden of her family's estate, surrounded by luxurious blooms that spun a vivid tapestry of colors. The laughter of partygoers echoed from the mansion, a bittersweet reminder of her gilded yet suffocating existence. Despite the designer clothes plastering her image of perfection, Emily felt buried beneath a weight of expectations that stifled her spirit. She often wondered if there was something more beyond the walls of wealth. It was then that she stumbled upon Maria, the housemaid, struggling to prepare for a charity event. The utter determination radiating from Maria pulled Emily in. It stirred a longing within her, an impulse to uncover the grit of hard work. "Teach me what hard work is like," she blurted out. "And in return, I'll show you what it's like to live the life of luxury." Maria paused, confusion flickering across her face before she nodded, their unconventional exchange igniting a thrill within Emily's chest. She stepped into Maria's world, a space filled with the palpable struggle of raising her children alone. At first they laughed together, Emily drying dishes with exaggerated flair, but soon the laughter twisted into an uncomfortable silence. Emily listened to Maria recount her sacrifices, how every missed meal meant another day of school shoes made of cardboard rather than leather. The reality of their lives emerged like an unwelcome storm cloud, Emily's glittering world starkly contrasted with Maria's unyielding fight. This revelation began to stir an unsettling awareness within her, opening her eyes to the glaring social disparities that surrounded her. Yet as her bond with Maria deepened, so too did the tensions in Emily's social circle. Her friends, draped in privilege, laughed derisively, mocking her newfound respect for someone they labeled a lowly maid. The biting words clawed at her insides, leaving her seething with anger, yet paralyzed by fear. Would she really stand by Maria and risk losing the comfort of her friendships, those very threads that wove her identity? With every mocking comment, she felt the fabric pulling toward conformity, and the tug was relentless. As she weighed her options, doubt crept in, wrapping her thoughts in chains of uncertainty. In the eye of the storm, Emily's heart raced, a chaotic rhythm echoing her inner conflict. She watched her friends' insipid smiles, their peals of laughter ringing in a jarring chorus of judgment. Torn between loyalty to Maria and her place within the group, she felt suspended in a moment thick with pressure. Would she choose the path crafted by a lifetime of privilege, or step boldly into the uncharted territory of standing up for what was right? The sound of their laughter erupted around her like a firework, stunning and disorienting. But against it stood the steadfast determination of Maria, the strength that had captivated Emily from the first day she made her challenge. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As she stood on the brink, muscles taut and mind racing, Emily inhaled sharply to quell the storm inside. The stakes couldn't be higher. Her next words tasted like the air before a thunderstorm. Did she have the strength to confront them? The realization settled in her chest. Real strength is forged in the choices she made now. Uncertainty twisted like smoke in her throat as she opened her mouth to speak. The pressure threatened to consume her, leaving the fate of her identity and friendships hanging in the balance. Would this be the moment she decided to embrace authenticity over allure? Or would she retreat into the safety of privilege? The roots of her decision plunged deeper into the soil of her resolve, each heartbeat amplifying the drama unfolding before her. A sudden hush cascaded through the air as Emily's resolve solidified. The laughter faded into a distant hum, and all that remained was her heartbeat, loud and insistent. She searched the eyes of her friends, flickering between accusation and amusement. A hesitation clawed at her, but the image of Maria's unwavering determination pierced through the fog of doubt. At that moment she realized that the wealth she had did not define her. It was the decisions she made that would carve her true identity. With a gulp of air that felt almost like liberation, she found her voice. You know, hard work is what gets us somewhere in life, not money or status, Emily asserted, her tone firm, stripping away any facade of nervousness. The words hung in the air, a stark contrast to the indifference of her peers, who scoffed with the ease of habitual privilege. Their laughter turned into a monstrous entity, threatening to engulf her. "Oh, come on, Em," one of her friends retorted, feigning sorrow. "Are you really going to defend a maid? What a waste of your time." Emily's jaw tightened, but there was resilience now. She felt the gravitational pull of her loyalty towards Maria anchoring her. In that moment, she realized that real friendship required more than laughter. It demanded authenticity. "I think we all could learn something from someone who works hard just to get by," she replied, heart racing as her own words started to resonate within her. But instead of finding support, she faced a backlash, words sharpened like blades laced with disdain. They accused her of losing her mind, and each comment stung her as they attempted to drag her back into the pit of conformity. Yet, deep inside, the thrill of defiance ignited within her. Each cynical chuckle fanned the flames of her determination until they blazed brightly enough to burn through her hesitation. Returning home that evening, drained yet electrified, Emily could feel the weight of her choices settling heavily on her shoulders. She took a long look in the ornate mirror that hung in her room, catching glimpses of the conflicted girl she had always been. The glimmers of opulence around her felt more alien than familiar. She questioned who she was becoming. Was this emerging strength merely a passing storm, or would it become the foundation of something far more substantial? Sitting at her writing desk, Emily opened her notebook, a sanctuary for her thoughts, and began to document her journey. Each stroke of the pen was both liberating and terrifying. The act of expression transformed her uncertainties into clarity, illuminating the path ahead. The realization dawned that her struggle would be a form of rebellion against her own upbringing. She wrote about the disparities she had witnessed in Maria's life, and how it awakened a hunger in her to effect change, not just for herself, but for others like her. Hours passed, steeping her in reflection, until finally, Emily closed her notebook with a new sense of purpose. The urge to dig deeper into her character, to chart the rocky landscape of disparity and empathy, surged within her like a current. Yet beneath that purpose, the gnawing thought of her friends lingered. Were long-standing relationships worth sacrificing for a new belief in her strength? As Emily gazed out at the stars dotted against a blanket of night, she sensed a turning point drawing nearer. The next day would not just be about confronting her friends again, but perhaps taking a new step into Maria's world for real. Could her voice strike a chord beyond camaraderie with Maria? Could it expand into the lives of countless others who faced similar struggles? The next morning, emboldened yet wary, she found herself standing at the crossroads of privilege and purpose, an intersection that would define her future. A decision loomed on the horizon, and with it, the prospect of true change. What would her next step be? The call to action echoed within her, relentless and tantalizing. The seeds of her new identity were rooted in that very inquiry. How could she leverage her privilege not just for her sake, but for the countless Marias out there waiting yet hoping for change? The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a golden hue on the room, illuminating the remnants of Emily's restless night. She slipped into her most comfortable clothes, ones that betrayed her social status. The thought was almost liberating, each fabric thread weaving a minor rebellion against the layers of expectation that had enveloped her. With a steely determination blossoming inside her, she grabbed her notebook and headed towards Maria's apartment. Every step felt heavy, charged with the magnitude of her decision. Would Maria welcome her? Would she still be able to connect with a world that had once felt so distant? Despite the tensions of the previous day, Emily's heart raced with the anticipation of the unknown. Approaching the small building nestled at the edge of town, she couldn't shake off the sense of trepidation creeping into her resolve. The juxtaposition between her life of luxury and this modest neighborhood was stark. But instead of retreating, She pushed forward, fists clenched, reminding herself of the strength she had unearthed. When Emily knocked on Maria's door, the seconds stretched painfully. Finally, the door creaked open, revealing Maria, eyes wide with surprise before softening into a welcoming smile. "Emily, what a surprise. Is everything okay?" "Yes," she breathed. "I want to talk. About everything." They settled at a small table, a simple yet inviting setup that stood in the kitchen, where the aroma of fresh coffee lingered in the air, mingling with the faint scent of something baking, a comforting ambiance that anchored Emily in the moment. "Honestly, I wasn't sure how receptive you'd be after yesterday," Maria said, concern flickering across her features. Emily shook her head, grappling with her own narrative. "No, it was my fault. I realized I've been taking everything for granted. My reality, my friendships, even you." As she spoke, Emily felt the layers of her pretense peel away. Thoughts tumbled from her, a mix of vulnerability and urgency. She described the stirring within her, the sense that she could no longer remain on the sidelines of her own life. Each word dug deeper into the newfound conviction that had ignited her spirit. Maria listened intently, nodding with understanding as Emily laid bare her fears of being judged, of losing people she had once deemed irreplaceable. "I want to understand. I want to learn. But I need your help." The weight of the words hung heavily between them, a fragile bridge towards empathy. "Help? With what?" Maria asked, her brow furrowing, confusion and curiosity mingling. "I want to find ways to support you and others like you, if they'll allow me." The admission felt like a giant leap off a cliff, but there was an undeniable thrill in the plunge. "I can't just sit on my privilege anymore." The silence stretched, and Emily's heart raced. Would Maria see the sincerity behind her words, or dismiss them as the fleeting whims of privilege? The potential for rejection flickered dangerously close, yet she felt the grip of her determination tighten. Finally Maria spoke, her voice soft but firm. "Emily, it won't be easy. You have to understand the realities that come with this. It's not just about feeling good. It's about real change." Emily nodded, knowing this was only the beginning. A challenge would mean confronting her own biases, her past in ways that could feel unsettling. She could already sense the emotional toll ahead, but the lure of purpose was enticing. The promise of growth lingered like a shimmering light on the horizon. As their conversation flowed, Emily found herself laughing, sharing stories, and entering a realm far removed from superficial concerns. The bond between them deepened, and with it emerged a tantalizing question. What kind of change would she be willing to fuel? Yet as they laughed, sharing insights about their lives, Emily felt a familiar shadow, the voice of doubt, whispering reminders of her friends who would surely ridicule her choices. Confronting this familiar world slipped back into her mind, provoking a subtle dread. The contrast sent a shiver down her spine. The more she immersed herself in this newfound purpose, the more radical the disconnect from her old friends felt. Would she have the courage to face them again, or would the challenge of choosing her path lead to isolation in a way she had never foreseen? That uncertainty loomed as the day waned, leaving her with more questions than answers, intertwining her sense of purpose with the emotional cost of her new dawn. What awaited her at the intersection of her old life and the one she was forging anew? Would her friends, once allies, now become antagonists in this metamorphosis? The following morning, Emily awoke with a clarity she hadn't felt in years. The sunlight streamed into the room with renewed intensity, reminding her of the warmth she had experienced in Maria's kitchen the day before. It wasn't just a conversation. It had been the catalyst for her burgeoning transformation. The more Emily reflected on those moments, the more she recognized the fire of conviction igniting within her, fueling her desire for genuine connection. As she prepared for the day, determination pulsated through her veins. What exactly did it mean to contribute positively to others' lives? She'd find out. After her meeting with Maria, Emily had jotted down a list of potential ways to take action, a brainstorm of her aspirations inflected with uncertainty. Over coffee, she skimmed through her notes. Ideas danced across the page: community service, mentorship programs, financial support for educational initiatives, all lofty dreams without a clear plan. But how could she translate those ideas into meaningful impact? And would her efforts be perceived as a mere gesture of goodwill, or a sincere commitment to change? Fueled by the need to commit, Emily situated herself among the familiar streets of her upbringing, her luxurious car idling in front of a local community center. Inside, the air buzzed with life. Kids ran in and out, their voices intertwining with excited laughter. It stirred something inside her, a longing to be part of this joy. As she entered, the director, Ms. Thompson, greeted her with a knowing smile. "Emily, it's good to see you. I assume you're here to volunteer." Ms. Thompson's tone was encouraging, yet Emily felt a swell of insecurity creeping in. "Yes, I am," she replied, trying to infuse confidence she didn't wholly feel. What can I do? An immersive whirlwind of activities awaited her. She was soon engrossed in organizing supplies for after-school programs. Painting walls alongside the children, she discovered the value of hands-on work and teamwork. The physicality of it exhilarated her, grounding her in the present, her previous world of privilege fading into the background. But that inevitable shadow loomed again. As she chatted with the kids about their favorite subjects, she couldn't shake the feeling that her old friends were soon to become critics. What if they saw her here? The thought made her heart race, not with excitement, but with trepidation. Their judgment could tarnish this beautiful experience she was shaping. It felt fragile. Halfway through the day, everything shifted. A boy, perhaps 10 or 11, looked up at her with wide, earnest eyes. "Are you a princess? You have the coolest stuff," he marveled, glancing at her designer sneakers. The juxtaposition of his innocence and her reality hit her hard. She wanted to say no, to tell him she was just Emily. No frills attached, but instead, it sparked a new introspection. Could she be a princess, a role model, of inspiration instead of mere class? The question rattled around in her mind as the day progressed. Her hands covered in paint, she realized that every eager smile and genuine laugh from the kids ignited a shift in her thoughts. The warmth she felt transcended societal norms. New connections were forming, and for the first time it wasn't about her status but the joy of being present in the moment. By the time the day wrapped up, a sense of fulfillment engulfed her, pushing the whispers of doubt aside. But just as she stepped out, her phone buzzed with a message from one of her old friends. "We're at Charlie's. You coming? Heard you're playing at being a peasant now?" Emily hesitated, glancing back at the vibrant community center, the laughter still echoing within. The dichotomy between her past and present loomed larger than ever, a fork in the road demanding a stand. What would she choose, to embrace ridicule or to accept her path toward transformation? The decision felt monumental, something that would ripple out far beyond her comfort zone. In grappling with her thoughts, a realization settled. Preparation was essential, but so was courage. She was transforming, but would she emerge into her new identity wholly intact? As twilight settled around her, Emily reflected on the crucial junction in her life. Could she confront her old friends and introduce them to the person she was striving to become? The thought was both terrifying and thrilling, challenging her courage in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. Clenching her jaw, she took a deep breath, ready to step into a future colored with both challenges and the promise of deeper connections, hoping for the strength to embrace all of it. After all, she could no longer shy away from the shadows of doubt. The crossroads lay before her, a choice now echoed painfully in her psyche. Would she confront the familiar faces that haunted her past as she forged a brand new path of bravery, or would she allow the shadows to dictate her next move? Emily stood outside, the vibrant energy of the community center pulsating behind her. The message from her friend still lingered, its implications heavy, a mocking reminder of the world she was attempting to leave behind. The laughter that had filled her heart now felt like a distant echo as the shadows of self-doubt crept back into her mind. She took another deep breath, grounding herself in the moment. What would they think? Would they see her as weak for choosing a path riddled with uncertainty? She couldn't deny the anxiety swirling within her, but she also felt an equally powerful force pushing her forward, a budding resolve to carve an identity distinctly her own. As she navigated the familiar streets, memories of her previous life wrapped around her like a shroud, both comforting and suffocating. She recalled countless nights spent in high society gatherings, where hollow conversations danced in glittering spaces. Would she truly abandon that world for a less glamorous one? The thought unsettled her. Emily arrived at Charlie's, the hub for all her former friends. She let the cool evening air fill her lungs, but hesitated before stepping inside. The familiar sounds of clinking glasses and laughter hit her with a wave of nostalgia. Confidence faltered as her stomach churned with unease. What do you even say to them? She thought. Resolutely, she pushed through the door. The laughter dimmed slightly as a few turned to look at her, and for a brief moment, she felt exposed. "Look who decided to grace us with her presence," one of her friends called out, a smirk decorating his face. Another chimed in, "What? Did the princess get tired of playing in the dirt?" But instead of letting their words penetrate her resolve, Emily felt a surge of defiance. "I actually spent the day volunteering," she announced, her tone steady, surprising even herself with the conviction behind it. The table quieted momentarily, and disbelief washed over their faces. "Volunteering? Seriously? Is that what you're calling it now?" One sneered, though a flicker of curiosity shimmered in their eyes. "Yes," she continued, her voice rising above the whispers. "It felt good to connect with others, to make a difference. Something I haven't felt in a long time." The words took form with unexpected strength, her earlier hesitation eclipsed by sincerity. The air felt electrified, an invigorating tension weaving through the space. She could see them processing this new Emily, a version of herself they had never known, one that stood proud and unyielding. "Why would you do that?" another friend asked, the challenge less biting and more genuinely inquisitive. Emily paused, her mind racing, reflecting on the boy's innocent question of her being a princess. "Because it's time I figured out who I really am, beyond the labels," she replied, her voice a blend of vulnerability and empowerment. With every eye trained on her, she felt a veil of isolation lift, granting her a newfound clarity. She didn't seek their approval, she craved their understanding. But beneath her newfound courage lay a gnawing fear. Would this honesty weaken her ties to them or strengthen her resolve to build something deeper, more authentic? As conversations resumed, albeit with a palpable undertone, she felt herself shift in the narrative. The late-night laughter no longer resided solely in her past. It propelled her forward, each passing moment marking her as the protagonist of her own story, ready to face unexpected challenges. With a newfound awareness, the realization hit her. She was not just transforming her connection with others, but also redefining her relationship with herself. The shift was palpable, a tumultuous excitement coursing through her veins, a recognition of strength she had barely begun to tap into. But just as the conversation swirled around her, a familiar face from the past sauntered in, locking eyes with her, a smirk playing on his lips. How would she respond to him? This embodiment of everything she was shedding from her life. Emily took a deep breath, ready to confront yet another turning point. Would she allow her past to dictate her present, or would she embrace the empowering identity she was forging amidst the uncertainty? The air crackled with energy as the stakes rose once more. She was standing on the precipice of her renewed self, but the question lingered. Would courage lead her through the storm or render her vulnerable to its wrath? Emily's heart raced as the familiar face advanced through the crowd, a magnetic pull of curiosity and fear that she couldn't shake off. Jake, the embodiment of everything she had distanced herself from, moved with the same casual confidence she had once admired. She felt the weight of her earlier declarations buoy up against the undertow of doubt his presence inspired. The laughter and chatter around her faded, creating a pocket of stillness as he paused at her side, feigning casual interest. "So, the princess has become a saint now. I never thought I'd see the day," he said. His tone light but a slight edge betrayed his underlying skepticism. "Don't you mean a princess in disguise?" Emily replied, her voice steady. But internally, her thoughts clashed like thunderstorms. She craved validation, yet she was simultaneously prepared to dismantle the very paradigm he represented. Jake's eyes narrowed but intrigued. "You really believe this is going to change anything? Helping a few people won't redefine you." "How would you know what defines me?" Emily shot back, surprised by her own assertiveness. She could feel her pulse quicken, the adrenaline heightening her awareness. The past melted into a blur, and she recognized the shifting ground beneath her, both an unsteady foundation and an opportunity to build anew. "I know you," he stated, his smirk fading into something more serious. "You crave connection, yet you throw it away for this, whatever it is." His words hung in the air, a challenge cloaked in concern. Would she give in to the familiar comfort of that reality, or stand up for her choices? It struck her that standing her ground was not just a confrontation of his expectations, it was a dismantling of her own. "I'm trying to figure out who I want to be," she answered quietly, meeting his gaze with renewed determination. "Maybe it's time you did too." A flicker of surprise crossed Jake's face, quickly replaced with irritation. "You think you're better than this? Believe me, you're just throwing away a good life." Reflecting on their past, Emily felt anger swell. Hadn't she stood in these rooms drenched in superficiality, feeling alone despite the crowd? "What's it worth if it feels empty? I feel more alive now than I ever did, Jake. I can't go back to just existing." The tension between them crackled, and as Emily turned her gaze to the rest of the group, she found eyes glued to their exchange, caught between approval and confusion. She was opening up a chasm, not just between her and Jake, but between who she was and who she was becoming. In that moment, she noticed the flicker of recognition in a few faces. They understood her struggle. "Maybe you don't see it, but this is who I am now," she continued, dauntless. "I now choose every piece. Can you?" A moment of silence draped over them, and despite the biting remarks, she felt weightless, buoyed by a courage that had felt unreachable before. Defining herself was not a single act. It was a process, a constant negotiation with the past she was shedding. Jake surveyed her, considering. "You talk a big game, but don't think it's going to be easy. You're stepping into a whole new world." "Then I'll learn how to navigate it," replied Emily, each word gaining strength. "I'm ready for whatever challenges lie ahead. The question is, are you?" With that, she felt as though she had stepped into a spotlight, one that had been dimmed for far too long. As Jake pivoted away, a scowl etched on his face, she realized hers was no longer the voice of the uncertain. It was one of resilience, firm in its clarity. Feeling a current of energy erupt within her, the room began to pulse with latent potential. Emily knew she needed to embrace the storm ahead, imbibed with the promise of transformation. But with every step deeper into this new life, she sensed greater trials awaited. The looming question remained: what other shadows from her past would emerge to challenge her resolve? Steeling herself, she readied for the next wave of self-discovery she would face, aware that the hardest trials often lay in wait. This was just the beginning. The aftermath of her confrontation with Jake coursed through Emily, an electric current fueling her resolve. As friends surrounded her, the buzz of conversation and laughter seemed distant, allowing her to weave through the crowd with newfound purpose. Even though she was absorbing every reaction, the pulse beneath her skin reminded her of the growing urgency to define herself beyond resentment. Venturing outside for a breath of fresh air, she shifted her thoughts from the chaos of the night around her to the internal landscape that seemed increasingly complex. The vibrant expanse of city lights flickered differently now, every glitter representing a path, a story yet to unfold. What had once seemed like a minefield of familiar faces was transforming into an expansive opportunity. She turned the dial in her mind, reflecting on what she valued most. It wasn't just defining who she wanted to be. It was aligning it with tangible actions. The notion of helping others had taken root, but there was more to explore. The seed planted itself deeper. Perhaps she could create something that spanned beyond mere acts of charity. There had to be a way to merge her new ambitions with a pragmatic approach that would bring change. As she composed herself, a lingering thought formed. How could she convert this inspiration into something meaningful? It was a chance to build, perhaps not just for herself, but for a broader purpose. With Jake's words echoing in her mind, she opened her phone and Googled nonprofits aligned with her interests, feeling her heart race with each discovery. It was as if she were standing in front of a vast canvas. Every name she found a potential brushstroke on a masterpiece still in the making. Days turned into weeks, and Emily's commitment only grew stronger. The task of immersing herself in fundraising and outreach turned routine into a rhythm. She dove headfirst into crafting a proposal for a workshop dedicated to empowering young women from similar backgrounds who had felt trapped, confined by the roles assigned to them. There was a genuine belief stirring in her that her journey could provide a roadmap, an example of resilience, self-definition, and ultimately, transformation. Her evenings were often spent writing, binding her emotions into actionable plans. But with progress came an unsettling realization. Embarking on this path would inevitably invite critiques. Conversations with her old crowd became strained. Unfamiliar with her choices, they questioned her intentions. Some even expressed disdain. Conversations that had once been filled with admiration turned into debates riddled with doubt. "Is this really the life you want?" they'd ask, laced with a tone of condescension she was growing increasingly allergic to. The sting of their disapproval pricked at her, yet she leaned into it rather than shying away. Reflections of their judgments became milestones, a marker of her growth, a refusal to retreat into comfort, and a step toward the new legacy she was forging. But every evening spent productively began to slip into restless nights, filled with imagined critiques and spiraling insecurities. The momentum was exhilarating, yet the specter of fear loomed. What if, after all her efforts, she faltered? What if she faced deeper challenges she hadn't prepared for? Each time she pressed forward, there was an equal pull back into the shadows. Frustrated, she found herself standing before the mirror one night, staring hard at the reflection looking back. "Who are you?" she challenged herself, breathless with a newfound intensity. The voice inside rang with the echoes of her past, whispers that dismissed her new endeavors, that called her foolish. Yet beneath it all lingered a spark, a gnawing urgency to prove them wrong. Just as clarity began to wash over her, an unexpected message popped up on her phone. An invitation to collaborate from a local entrepreneur whose mission aligned with her vision. It was an opportunity she couldn't overlook, one that could greatly amplify her efforts. Yet uncertainty tugged at the edges of her resolve. She had admired this figure for years but hesitated. Could she navigate this partnership without losing her essence, her voice? As doubts flickered momentarily, Emily felt the next step pulsing in front of her. Would she seize the potential of this new alliance, or risk fading back into the very existence she sought to escape? Tension coiled in her gut. With each tick of the clock, the moment of decision approached, one that could very well seal her newfound identity or unravel it completely. The choice loomed, a pivotal moment on her journey of self-discovery, and she braced for whatever outcome awaited her. The buzz of Emily's phone jolted her from her thoughts as the screen lit up with the name that had become synonymous with ambition and innovation. Gabriel Halston. Taking a deep breath, she strained against the rising tide of uncertainty. This moment was neither casual nor frivolous. It was a fork in the road, one that had the potential to reshape her future. With her fingers hovering over the screen, she was flooded with visions of endless possibilities. Gabriel was known for manifesting change through strategic partnerships, championing projects that left an impact on the community. Yet the whispers of doubt wrapped around her like a fog. Was her vision substantial enough to align with someone of his caliber? Proposals paraded through her mind, each dressed in the potential for success but tainted with the fear of failure. In that moment, she realized that this partnership wasn't simply about collaboration. It was an opportunity to learn from someone who had treaded the path she aspired to navigate. Could this be a mentoring relationship, one that would forge her resilience into something tangible? But the fear of becoming just another echo in Gabriel's world bore down on her. As she considered the parameters of entering his realm, Emily recalled the empowering mantra she'd crafted for herself. To become, one must first believe. The thought steadied her pulse. She wasn't merely asking to join a project. She was offering her unique perspective, her narrative shaped by personal trial. She set her phone down and walked toward her notepad cluttered with ideas and sketches for her workshop proposal. Each scribbled line represented a dream she was preparing to actualize, fueled by her experiences. Delving into her notes, she recognized not just the content but the intent behind each word. She had something of value to contribute, and stepping into this collaboration could elevate her mission toward empowering young women. Yet, the tension bubbled within. Could she handle the intensity of merging her vision with someone else's? Would they diminish her voice in pursuit of their agenda? This became a pivotal dilemma. Emily knew she needed to confront these fears before stepping onto the stage Gabriel had set. Harnessing a mix of her resolve and vulnerability, she meticulously crafted a response. Acknowledging both her respect for Gabriel's work and her personal journey, she positioned her proposal as a tandem venture, their strengths combining to fuel something transformative. She highlighted the empowerment workshop as uniquely her own, infused with her passion and personal experiences, but harmonized with Gabriel's vision. When she hit send, a weight lifted, yet a fresh wave of apprehension surged in her chest. The decision had been made, but what if Gabriel didn't see the potential she foresaw? The critiquing voice began its dance again, an unwelcome companion she thought she'd left behind. Emily inhaled deeply, clenched her fists, and steadied herself. The crux of her development lay not in the response she received, but in taking this decisive risk. Days passed as Emily navigated her routine, the anticipation thickening the air around her. Each moment revealed the extent of her growth. She had ceased to be a passive observer of her ambitions. As she drew closer to her first meeting with Gabriel, she committed to embracing whatever path lay ahead, be it one that amplified her voice or challenged her to elevate it. Then came the day of reckoning. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Gabriel. It was a simple confirmation of their meeting, a casual invitation cloaked in professionalism, but it felt like a leap into the unknown had just turned tangible. Preparing mentally, she recognized that Paul's insights could either bolster her mission or rewrite her narrative. The sunlight streaming through her window refracted her thoughts, illuminating a new, invigorated resolve. This meeting wasn't only about partnership. It was the next step in asserting her identity within a world she chose to navigate on her terms. As she stood before the mirror once more, a familiar question lingered. "Who are you, Emily?" But this time, the answer echoed with clarity. Not just a woman on the brink of transformation, but one who was poised to challenge the norms. When the time came, she entered the cafe, her spirit buoyed and her heart racing. Yet the depths of her determination and fear coexisted, stirring a storm as she spotted Gabriel across the room, unassuming yet magnetic. Would this encounter lead her closer to the impact she desired, or unravel the confidence she'd painstakingly built? The tension hung like fragile gossamer, awaiting her first step forward into the next chapter of her journey. Emily stepped into the cafe, the aroma of roasted coffee beans clinging to her like an anticipation-laden veil. The typical chatter faded into a muted backdrop, every sound seeming to underscore her own racing heartbeat. There he was, Gabriel Halston, seated at a corner table, his focus drawn to a sleek laptop. He exuded confidence, and it seemed to fill the room, wrapping around Emily like a blanket of need for affirmation. She took a deep breath, her hands clammy and creased around the edges of her proposal. Visualizing success had been easy in her mind, but now, as reality set in, the weight of it all pressed down like an anchor. Questions swirled through her thoughts. What if he found her ideas lacking? What if he dismissed her outright? Each step toward him felt heavier than the last as apprehension surged, but she couldn't back down now. This was her moment. As she approached, Gabriel looked up, a curious smile breaking through his focused demeanor. "Emily, it's great to finally meet you in person." His voice was warm, yet commandingly vibrant, touching every vein of her ambition. She nodded, her pulse quickening, and took the seat across from him, now undeniably aware that this was more than just a typical meeting. It held the potential to redefine her aspirations. "Thank you for meeting me," she replied, surprised at the steadiness of her own voice. A flicker of confidence ignited within her. She grasped the opportunity, not merely as a pitch but a discussion of mutual growth. If she was to thrive, her voice deserved to be heard amid the whirlwind of his achievements. "Your workshop proposal was intriguing," Gabriel began, fixing her with a penetrating gaze. "I think it's crucial we address how we can make this impactful for young women." The phrasing struck a chord, stitches of affirmation weaving together her self-doubt. If it fascinated someone with his influence, maybe it was indeed valuable. As their conversation flowed, they delved into details, trading ideas like seasoned strategists forging a new alliance. Emily spoke passionately, invigorated by Gabriel's insights but keen to retain her essence. Ideas ignited as they structured the workshop around the challenges young women faced, amplifying voices through shared narratives and powerful speakers. Emily felt alive, emerging amid their dialogue, her internal hesitations ebbing into the background. Yet Gabriel's probing questions often challenged her assumptions, more than once prompting the walls she'd built around her insecurities to threaten to rise again. "What if this project doesn't achieve what you hope for? Why should we invest in this as opposed to traditional programs?" Each question was a test, and with every response, Emily confronted her own beliefs. Could she navigate this new landscape without losing her vision? After hours that felt like mere moments, the conversation began to cool. He leaned back, assessing her, holding silent contemplation. There it was again, the unsettling flicker of doubt. "You have strong ideas, Emily," he finally said, but the weight of his tone felt heavy with implication. "But you must also prepare for skepticism. People can be resistant to change." In that instant, the ground beneath her shifted. The vulnerability that had begun to take root now evolved into a formidable determination. "If I only listened to skepticism, I'd never progress." Her words emerged, fueled with her newfound confidence. "This workshop is not just another program. It's a lifeline, an avenue to reach those who feel unheard. We can shift the paradigm." Gabriel scrutinized her as if weighing each word, assessing her conviction. And just like that, she felt the intensity of the stakes heighten. Her proposal was larger than just herself. It represented the aspirations of many, and she wouldn't allow doubts to shape their destiny. As their meeting concluded, a new turmoil brewed within her. Gabriel leaned across the table, a flicker of admiration in his expression. "Let's refine this further. I want to take the next steps with you, but be ready. The road ahead will test both our limits." Emily swallowed hard, the possibility of mentorship looming ahead, charged with exhilaration and fear. They had navigated the complexity of ideas together today, but what lay ahead might stretch her beyond what she had envisioned. The gravity of sharing the journey with someone of Gabriel's caliber felt monumental. As she exited the cafe, the cool breeze greeted her face, a stark contrast to the warmth she had felt within. Now, invigorated and frightened, she questioned what lay ahead. Would she be able to rise to the occasion? With every step toward her future, a familiar mantra called out. To become, one must first believe. The liberation of her voice mingled with the uncertainty of the challenges ahead. She reached for her phone to document her thoughts, but hesitated. Perhaps she needed to sit with this newfound recognition a bit longer. Yet, just as she was about to take a step back and process the moments of the day, a new message illuminated her screen. It was from Gabriel, a list of tasks and expectations for their next meeting. A sense of urgency tightened her chest. Would she meet his expectations, or would this threshold become yet another hurdle? The next chapter of her evolution awaited on the horizon, and she would need to confront an unanticipated truth. How far was she willing to go to empower not just herself, but others as well? Emily Hartwell had come a long way, standing at the precipice of her aspirations shrouded in the early morning dew. Months had passed since she first chose to walk the path of authenticity beside Maria, and she was no longer the girl encumbered by privilege, but a woman determined to redefine not just her life, but the lives of others. With a sharpened resolve, she dove headfirst into the preparation for the workshop aimed at empowering young women. Each planning session with Gabriel crystallized her vision. They hashed out logistics and strategies, their collaborative dynamic growing stronger with each meeting. Beyond the technicalities, Emily discovered depths of competence within herself that she had never imagined. Her ideas resonated, sparking innovative approaches to age-old challenges facing young women in underserved communities. Every discussion built her confidence and solidified her commitment. Finally, the day of the workshop arrived. As Emily stood in front of a room filled with eager faces, young women who had similarly faced societal barriers, she felt the unmistakable rush of anticipation. The venue buzzed with energy, and for a moment, uncertainty tugged at her thoughts. Would her message resonate? Could she truly inspire in the profound way she envisioned? The opening of the workshop flowed seamlessly, the stories shared by participants reflecting struggles, but also aspirations. Their faces lit up as Emily encouraged dialogues, validating their experiences. She saw her own struggles mirrored in the determination of each participant. In that shared space, she understood that transformation was a collective journey, one that empowered those around her the same way Maria had empowered her. The flow of connection spilled into partnerships, mentorships, and ultimately, strengths awaiting acknowledgement. Her heart surged, not with insecurity but fulfillment. Confidence radiated from her newfound sense of purpose. Yet, amidst the elation simmered a persistent undercurrent of apprehension. Unwarranted doubts clawed at the back of her mind. What if those old friends still haunting her past echoed contempt for this new identity? But she cast them aside, choosing instead to celebrate this pivotal moment, reinforcing the mantra she had repeated as she embraced her transformation. To inspire others, she must first believe in herself. As colleagues and attendees surrounded her at the workshop's conclusion, praises flowed in a choir of understanding. Emily accepted the accolades, basking in the recognition that she had yearned for, not of superficiality, but of authenticity. The journey had propelled her beyond a simple act of charity. She was now a catalyst for change. But perhaps most gratifying was the seed of inspiration she planted among the young women, an echo of her own journey that would reverberate beyond these walls. As they received their certificates of participation, the glimmer of possibility shone in their eyes and the energy pulsed through Emily, a reminder that she was no longer alone in her quest for purpose. That evening, returning to her family's mansion, Emily felt a deep-rooted satisfaction ripple through her. Taking a long look in the ornate mirror, she no longer saw a conflicted girl swayed by the tides of her privilege, but a woman grounded in her abilities and committed to her mission. She strode into her sanctuary, equipped with evidence of her achievements. Recalling Maria's lingering presence in her life, she grabbed her notebook and penned a heartfelt message, expressing gratitude for the foundational role Maria played in her transformation. It wasn't just about creating new opportunities for herself. It demanded a willingness to uplift others who shared the same dreams. In her heart swelled a deep sense of pride that was not only just hers to keep, but extended to anyone who had shaped her journey. Maria, the girls in the workshop, and even the daunting yet familiar shadows of her past. And so, with renewed vigor, she solidified her commitment to spearhead future workshops, delving into mentorship, outreach, and fundraising efforts. Each day carried with it the promise of outreach, growth, and potential, and she embraced every challenge ahead as an opportunity that awaited nurturing. The future sparkled bright in Emily's new reality, rooted in an appreciation of hard work and connection. She was determined to succeed, not for herself alone, but to champion others on their unique journeys. As she opened her phone, a coherent message formed in her mind. Employing her privilege to forge paths for those without them would be her life's work. Her journey had only just begun, but she stood firm in her understanding. In inspiring others to rise, she would ascend alongside them. Now the narrative of Emily Hartwell was one of resilient hope, empowerment, and collective strength. Now it's your turn. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about this empowering conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring journey. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of backing the channel through these actions.